Okay, we are now currently here in file Auth.js, and notice in the line 21 that there is a TypeScript, I don't know what to say, complaints or warning about the property rule does not exist in type adapter user or unuser, adapter user and unuser. So to be able to resolve this type checking, although we can still run our application able to log in into the system. Why is it important that we fix type checking issue in TypeScript? Fixing TypeScript type checking issues is crucial for building robust, maintainable, and predictable JavaScript applications. And these are the benefits of fixing this. To catch bugs before runtime. TypeScript acts as a static analyzer, checking your code before it runs. So this allows you to catch type-related errors, trying to access property that doesn't exist, passing the wrong type of argument to a function during development rather than in production. So it has benefits. So while you are in development stage, you catch early these issues that can cause crashes or unexpected behavior during the production. So this saves you times and headache of debugging. Reduce debugging time. When TypeScript flag an errors, just like this one, it usually points you to direct the problem location and provides helpful information about the type mismatch. Second is improve code maintainability, clarity and readability. Type annotation make your code more self-documenting by clearly defining the types of variables, function parameters, and return values. You make it easier for yourself and other developers to understand how your code works. So this is especially important in larger projects or when you are working with teams. Easier refactoring. When you need to change your code, TypeScript's type checker can help you identify all the places where the changes might have an impact. So this can be done in development stage. This makes refactoring safer and less error prone. If you change the type of variable, TypeScript will highlight all the places where that variable is used incorrectly, allowing you to fix them before introducing bugs. Preventing regressions. When you make changes to one part of your code, TypeScript can help ensure that those changes don't unintentionally break other parts of the application. This helps prevent regression and keeps your code more stable. Enhanced developer experience, better code completion and suggestions. Yeah, TypeScript aware IDEs provide excellent code completion and suggestion, just like VS Code. As you type, the IDE can suggest properties, methods, and function parameter based on the types you define. This speeds up the development and reduces typos. Improve collaboration. While working in a team, TypeScript helps ensure that everyone is on the same page regarding data types and API contracts. This reduces misunderstanding and integration issues. So, in summary, while it may seem like extra work to fix TypeScript errors during development, the long-term benefits far outweigh the initial effort. So investing in type safety pays off by improving code quality, reducing debugging time, and increasing developer productivity. So, improving code quality, reducing debugging time, and increasing developer productivity. Now that we know the importance of fixing the TypeScript type checking issue, we can now proceed on fixing that issue. And the first thing we need to do is to create a new file, next.auth.b.ts. So there is a package, I believe, next.auth.ts. We will be extending that existing package or object. So notice that when we create this next.d.ts, notice that d.ts, d I believe stands for file declaration. Now that we have defined that, then we can open that here in this window. Oh, sorry, wrong file. next auth this one. We need to define a new type. So the adapter user and user object doesn't have role, I think, in the interface declaration. So what we can do is declare to be for us to be able to extend. Declare module next auth and define here interface session with a user, because the user has session object and then user property, which is also an object for user, should be extend on the extended user type. So what this means is that the existing next auth, we just replace that with the new session that we define ourselves, having a user that extends to extended user. So let's define here export const type extended user, which is an instance of default session from next auth, and we have to call the user. This user has all the types for the user, and we are creating extended user based on all of that default types for user object. And in that type, we will be adding a new property called role. So we can do that by using and or ampersand, and this will be responsible for combining the existing properties of the user with this new property called role, which is a type of user role we define in our schema. So now that we have this, if we hover in our session user role here, the previous message about role is not found in the adapter user, and user is now gone, but we have a new issue here. Type this object is not assignable with user role. So since this role is of type user role from Prisma client, and I believe this is a string, either a user or an admin, we can do something like this as user role, so that the two will be a matching type, and this user role should be imported from our Prisma client as well. The same here. Now you see, by doing this, the type checking issue is now fixed. TypeScript is no longer complaining. Now I believe I did not explain properly the concept of this, so let's dissect this one. I'm going to close this for now so that we only have next.d.ts alone here, and on the left side will be the explanation of each line here. So the first line, we already know that we are importing this user rule from Prisma client. This user rule here defines the different rules user can have in your application. What we defined before is admin and user, but these are some examples of what we can assign as a user role. So the import, of course, making the user available in this file to be used. Next is the default session. There should be type of this one, type, so that we will be importing the type. Instead of importing the object itself, we are importing the type. So we're getting the type from this default session object, particularly the user properties of this object. So we get the type and assign that to extended user, a new type with additional new type rule. So the default session defines the structure of the default session object in the Next.js provides. Now the export type extended user, the type that is newly created. Here is the breakdown. Default session user, as I mentioned earlier, accesses the type of the user property within the default session object. So it gives us the type of the user provided by Next.js. And then unenroll user role. The unsymbol, as I mentioned earlier, is an intersection type. It combines the type of the default user, that is the property of default session object, with the property role. The role property is of type user role, as I mentioned earlier, which was imported from Prisma. So the extended user now includes all the default user properties, plus a role property. And here declare module, a TypeScript declaration, since it is using declare. TypeScript declaration merging. It allows to modify or extend existing type definition. Type definition here is in Next-Auth. In this case, it's extending the Next-Auth module types. So this is how we extend. Now here in our settings page, in our component that render the settings page in the browser, notice that we have session here. This session comes from the auth. When we do something like this, await auth, basically we are calling this function session here, and it returns a session. So now that we have session user here in this session, notice that it can suggest now the role here. But if we type something like uh, custom, again it is complaining. If we add this custom here, custom, let's say type string, and go back to the page.tsx, notice that the complaint is now gone. So removing that, again it is now complaining. So if we have new properties that we need to be added to the user, we just have to define the types of that properties for the user here.